Okay, welcome to the training for today. We're going to talk about some of these like hidden signals. Like, what is your account saying when you are going to look at your ads and you're like, I got leads coming in and they're either good or they're bad, or possibly looking even at some of those numbers in the ads manager. Because I remember when I first started with ads like 15 years ago on social media. And I remember looking at those columns in the ads manager, and they just they melted my brain. I was like, I don't understand like what any of this stuff means. What, is it good? Is it bad? I remember looking at this going, how do I know what to fix? You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. And we're going to talk about some of that, but we're also going to talk about like when you um, are getting leads coming through that are good or bad, how to like even work on the quality just a little bit. I want to focus more on the metrics this morning because there's a lot of stuff in here that we we talk about, and there's a lot to know, but really there's only some key things that we, really need to be worried about and look at and understand. I ultimately live or turn things off based on my cost per sale. I mean, that's ultimately the thing. But, you often don't know that right away unless you're in e-commerce. E-commerce, you're selling people right to a website. And that is obvious. You could turn your ad on by noon. Where are you at? Like, are you selling stuff? You're not. And if you're in like a book a call situation like I am, or going to a larger ticket sale, you may not know your metrics for a week or two. So, like, you may have to look back and look at a 7-day number. And if you're in a company where you make sales off of the ad, but you still are bringing people through to a book a call, get to a Zoom, your window might be shorter or longer. And this is how you're able to know that is by looking at some of these numbers, but we want to, some of those are a little delayed in effect. Also, too, as your skill level gets better and more honed in and everything from running ads to closing, that that time will shrink. Like it might take somebody, 30 days or whatever to enroll somebody. It'll go to 2 weeks to a week to a day. It'll shrink that period of time. So we are, that's just part of it. I'll just tell you that's just totally part of it. So we will let me get this thing open. We'll Okay, make sure this is working. Oh, here we go. We'll talk about a little bit of that, but let's hone in here, and I will share this here in a second. Some of my background for some people that are new here is that, I've had multiple businesses that I've grown. One of them exclusively on the internet, the other one was online and offline, and both businesses made it to, you know, over 2 million a year in sales. And that's there's a lot of things that go with that as far as like doing it right, doing it wrong, getting stuck. So there's a lot, like we as we grow over the years, we learn a lot of things, but there's only one thing I believe that is so critical, and this is why I teach people how to get leads and prospects, because if you don't have a steady, strong flow of leads and prospects, the business will flatline no matter what. It doesn't matter. I've noticed this. There's a lot of things that I think about with why do people get stuck? And almost always the answer is they I always find out first, like, do you have a steady lead flow? Are you bringing people through that are brand new, never seen you, on a dependable basis, where you get people coming in like clockwork every day? I'm going to talk to 3 to 5 people a day, or we're going to acquire 20 leads a day, or whatever it is. And of the 20 leads, we get 5 conversations. Of 5 conversations, we get 3 sales. I mean, that's what we should have in our business. And I find that most people are just praying. They're just hoping. They're hoping somebody's going to reorder. They're hoping somebody's going to find their stuff on the internet. They're hoping that they are going to miraculously double their business size without a real plan to acquire new people. And that is typical, honestly. It's typical. I talk to a lot of business owners, and the majority of people have no idea or anything about the internet and the online stuff, as they always say, the online stuff. And there's a lot of people getting left behind when it comes to this. And so that's why we help people with it, because it's really the number one thing. The first thing out of anything that could go wrong in your business is, do we have enough people coming through the front of the top? We call it like the top of the funnel. Are there people learning about what we do every day? Are people learning more at a deeper level and participating in, coming and watching our videos, or reading our posts, or coming to a Zoom, or are they coming into our store, or what is it that you're asking them to do? And then ultimately a sale. But if that doesn't work, then even the back end, retention programs and things like that, they don't work. Like, how could you have that when you don't even have people coming through the front? So it's the biggest mistake that I see, is that we as business owners get stuck in the everyday management, because we can stay super busy doing a lot of things, right? But everyday management can bog us down, where we feel like we're super busy. We're appearing to be really busy, but that front injection into the business of new people is not happening. And then what do you got? You got stuck, right? So I've got a little thing here. Let's see. We got people all over the place from every corner of the country. You guys, I just jumped right in. That's how I felt this morning. I'm just like, I'm just gonna jump right in. Let's just go. Okay, let's just run. For those that know me well, I'm not a morning person. Um, I'm not a no morning person. No. And I've been burning some midnight oil on some projects of my own this week, and got some really big things done. But I'm a midnight oil burner. I'm not a 6 a.m.er. I aspired to be like my dad. My dad, he would go to bed at 10 o'clock, 10:30. He would be up at 4, and that's what he did. And he could get up at 4. I'm like, what? That's insane. And here I am, like, I'm not, so I'm usually um up pretty late. That's just what I do, because that's when the world is quiet. That's the way I like to look at it. So we're gonna look at the account. Let's go back and we'll go back into our left brain and talk about numbers and things like that, because the account is, kind of where we begin. Once we take the time and we figure out who our ideal avatar is, aka prospect, aka client, who that ideal person is. We create a campaign around that. We figure out their demographics, we look at their problems, et cetera, et cetera. We develop, what would they want? What would they want in an ad? Why would they respond to something? And then we make an ad that matches that, and then we put together like a web page or something to give them something. It's always about them getting something, from a coupon to a video to a text message to a presentation, like whatever it is you're promising. We got to promise something in the video, in the ad. Or it could be a promise like to buy something, like if you're looking to sell, like I said, an e-commerce type of situation. So we got to create the ad around that. But then once the ad is running, like I said, is it good? Like, is it bad? Why is it not selling? Like, well, why is it not people not clicking through? So there's a lot of these hidden clues in there that we're gonna just, look at some of the main ones that I think are super important. And this is what can really turn around going from the negative into the positive into your account. So this is so funny how this works a little different. How this slide thing is. So, this is the thing, like, especially when you're new, you log into the ads manager, right? And you look at this thing, move this out of the way. You look at this thing and you're like, what does this mean? What do all these columns mean? We can have all these sets, right? We can look at these things and like, how do we know? And then we go into here, and then we're like, what's this? Then you look at like, what's this? So it's kind of like, what is all this? And what does it, matter? So we will take a look at this. Let me see. I'm wondering if this, there we go. Um, how do we know? Is this good or bad? And I feel the struggle. Like I used to be at that point and wonder, is this something that um will I ever understand it? And I'll tell you, it takes practice. It does take practice to go in there because if you have your metrics and you are um looking at this and you only visit this once a couple weeks or something like that, you won't master them. You gotta visit this frequently and consciously, even like to help your brain write things down with a pen and paper versus just looking at it on the internet. Because sometimes, like, I have to push the pencil to connect it in my brain. Just tip of the day, just tip of the day. So some of my most common, most frequency looked at or frequently looked at are these three things: your cost per thousand impressions, which is your CPMs. And this is, you're paying on your ads according to how much they're showing it. But when you look at these columns, they're doing a lot of math for you. But ultimately, where's CPM? There it is. Ultimately, they are charging you according to how many impressions. But like I said, these other columns are just them helping you out with the math. Okay. So cost per thousand impressions is one particular metric. I also look at the CTR series, as I like to call it. So you've got CTR link click through here, and you've got CTR all right here. Okay. So these are other metrics. These are actually people taking action and clicking. They're either fiddling on your ad, which is this number here, somewhere. They're reading, learning, opening where the text is. They're fiddling on it. They're clicking on the call to action link with this number. Okay. So those are important numbers to look at. Let me delete this, get this out of the way. And then I also look at frequency. My ears got a little congested overnight because we got allergy season here. Frequency is how often it's been shown to your prospect, your audience. So this is probably the third thing that I weigh the most, I weigh on. I also really weigh, and I didn't put on the slide, obviously the cost per result. Like you've got a metric that you're going after and you want to let's put this in here. You want to make sure that you're falling within that KPI, which means key performance indicator. Am I within this KPI? Now, this number here for this particular ad, they're going to vary according to the ad. This ad, I ran it, and $30 is kind of where the ad, will land. Between 20 and 30 is where this lead is acceptable in my world. But I also ran this in another way in another account, and a different kind of the same ad, according to, let me show you this. It's very interesting. This is what's fascinating to me, absolutely, about this whole thing. Let me open in this other account. You can have multiple ad accounts for different things if you want very different things. Okay, so let me put this in here. My account's like, I'm not waking up this morning. It's not, it's just taking its time to load. Come on. Okay, here we go. So what's interesting about this is that different ads will have different KPIs. Okay. And what I mean by that is this ad here is an ad that, come on, Facebook. This ad here, I ran it to my own website, and people opted in, to get the lead. These leads were coming in under $10. And it was universal across the board. You know, you could see consistently, and this went to my own website. Now, different objective, different account. This one sent is the same ads, but went to school to build my school following. So the thing is that different ads are going to behave different in your cost per result. And sometimes the key performance indicator is just going to be what it is, but you have to know. Like in this situation, I know that a lead that goes through and joins my school is going to cost between 20 and $30. The closer I can keep it at 20, I think the better. I've had them at 15 and stuff like that, but usually the quality goes down. A really good number for me to fall in is, 20, $25, somewhere in there. And the lead quality is pretty good because I put in a lot of qualifiers. So I'm throwing stuff at my cat. She's in, she's out, she's in, she's out. I put in qualifiers so that I'm not just getting like anybody, right? So it's going to increase your cost per lead. But on this particular account, this is a lead ad, not like a lead generation ad where they go to a website to enroll to get a checklist. So that's also going to be a factor in your metrics, where you're looking at the numbers, and which I'll get into in just a minute. But I just want to show you that even the ad type, even though you're looking to get leads, the ad type can make a huge difference in your metrics as well. So you gotta, again, it's you don't know till you're putting stuff out there, and if you know that it's good. But I'm gonna give you like the numbers of what you're gonna want to be in. So, okay, come on over here, thingy majiggy. Here we go. So, if your numbers, if your CPM is really high, my CPM, I find typically, I'm looking at this average here. Typically, if my CPM is between 40 and $60, for me, that's typical. Okay. And that's where I really want it to be. Now, I think it's interesting the two different ad types. Mind you, these are the same ads, like the same images, the same words, but different accounts and different objectives. One is a conversion to school, one is a conversion to a website. Now, it's interesting because these CPMs cost per thousand impressions are much less money on my own domain. So when I work with my clients, I make sure they get their own domain so that it's Facebook loves people using real websites. Me sending, so think about this. I've always said this. If you've watched me like more than once on these videos, I talk about Facebook as one goal. It's to keep you on Facebook, right? That's what they want. So when you put out content that keeps people on Facebook and watching and engaging and you're interesting to your viewers, Facebook will reward you for that. Now, do you think Facebook would really want to send people to Skool? No. That's a competitor because Skool has basically replaced Facebook groups. So they'd rather not. So my CPM here is 30, 40 bucks here. But if I look at my CPMs on this ad, it's 60. Same ad. Hold on, I gotta get, she's gonna drive me crazy. Come on, get out of here. Bye. She's like in, she's out. She's in, she's out. It's so funny. She's actually like Monty's favorite. But she heard him get up and go down to the kitchen. So that's why she's like, let me out. So even where the destination as to where you're sending people can make a difference in these numbers. Even though the ad is the same, the targeting I think is the same or pretty close, but it's just literally where I'm sending people to is greatly affecting the account. As you can see here, this CPM is 60, average $60 versus 30 something sending it to my own website. So for those of you that work with me, you know some of the method to my madness here when I'm like, you need to have your own domains. That's why replicated websites of any kind, Facebook hates. Facebook will is letting me send people to Skool, but I'm paying for it. Does that make sense? Like that's, and sometimes we'll see, very competitive industries that, let me go back here, where the CPMs are really high. Like I've got some that are really high, like this one right here, because this ad is really going after a very, very competitive, um, industry. And I think I turned that one off within a few days. Hold on. Because the CPMs were so high and the cost per link click were so high, I turned it off. Um, but it just hit a segment that was really high, you know. And yeah, I didn't even get a conversion on that one because it was like so high. And again, CPM is just the front part. We're looking at cost per thousand impressions, right? So how do here's the thing is I don't live and die by the CPM. Oh, thanks, Sue. um, that uh hold on a second, I'm looking at the chat. Deborah, no. Um, I've I've tried where like she asked the question, could you direct people to your landing page first and then the community to avoid that? There's a huge attrition. You know what I mean? Like there's a huge attrition rate. Plus the bots know. The bots know. So you collect the lead and then you make sure you get the lead, name, phone number, email, whatever you're doing. And then in your follow through follow ups, you can send them to other places. But you ultimately, to send them to a landing page with the link, say to Skool or whatever, the bots will read that. Yeah. So I'm still collecting the lead, just doing it in a little bit different way. And I'll show you something in a second that we just worked on yesterday that is really cool. We created another template for you guys that are using Profit Lead Pro. So so if your CPMs are stupid high, like in my one case over here where it was like 200, My average on this particular group, which is sending people to a webinar, register for the webinar, blah, blah, blah. This is actually pretty good for me in the 70s. I like it, of course, when it's less, but that's not always the case. But I know these numbers, and the only way to know these numbers is to know your ads. You'll know if you're getting a good cost per lead, just note your CPMs because this is something you got to learn over time with because every ad, every account is different. But if that is like off the charts, like I know if my CPMs get over up like into the 80s, 90s, and over 100, something is wrong. So the targeting could be too narrow. It might be too crowded. There's too much competition. The algorithm is going after a group of people that is a highly competitive market. And it could be the ad is quality is low, but I know my ads. Like, so I know it's not the ad quality because I ran that same ad over here. Um, this here and this here and this here are all the same ads. Okay, they're all the same ads. So my CPMs went from 40, $50 to 250. So that's just telling me that that was a bad segment. And I just turned it off. I'm like, okay, bye bye. See ya, Felicia. That's pretty much what it is. So, when you get into that situation, if you're new, you might you might just decide to like my first go-to always is change the images, change the headlines. If you're finding that's a repeating, reoccurring theme, like that ad that I showed you there might be time to like refresh it, or come up. I am about due to add in some new creatives. Um, and so, let's go back to the CTR number, which are these numbers right here: CTR, link click through, CTR all. And then Facebook is nice because Facebook these are the click rates, but they do the math for you too, because this is the integer version of this number and this is the cost. So they did the math. So they took the cost per thousand impressions, your CPM, and they figured out, okay, what is it costing you according to like when 2.18% of the people click on it. Well, it's costing you $2.60 for that little click. What does that show us in like real numbers, like integers? It's 19 people. So really these three numbers are pretty much the same. It's just that they're giving it to us in three different ways, which is cool because I like to look at um, that number. Let me just move this over just a smidge because I want to get this other column in here. Right there. So, bring this back to number. There we go. So these three numbers are basically the same. Okay. Now, these three numbers are basically the same as well. CPC, CTR link click through, and link clicks, they're actually the same number. This is them actually clicking the below the link button, or they're clicking on the image to go to the place you're sending them. So this is the CTR alls are like just them fiddling on the ads, okay? Farting around, clicking like, read more, the whole thing. This is the hard click to the call to action. So this number here is represented, this is what I'm paying. This is the percent, and this is the link clicks. So again, this is figured out through like what is it costing per thousand impression, and then Facebook does the math. So I like this number CTR all to be about 2% or more. And then if you notice, like this number here is not 2%. So I open this up and I look on the inside, but I do have ads that are over 2%. They were factoring in the ones that were that didn't get any action. So I'm like, okay, I'm still good, being here at 2%. So I like the CTR all to be about 2% or greater, I will say, or greater. This is a highly competitive market, so I'm like good with that. And then I want my link click through rate to be at least 1%. So let me get it's really to turn on these markers and on and off is always a challenge. So this one is a little weak, right? So when I'm looking at this, I'm going to open this up and look at it on the inside. So this one was strong. This one was strong, but this one was not. So that's what was dragging that down. But I think ultimately, how did I run this? I turned this campaign off, and I'm trying to remember. It's been about a month. I turned it off because I let this one go. This one was really, I think, I'm trying to remember. It's been a month. It was like a year ago. So I'm trying to remember if I put that up there because the cost per lead was higher. I'm looking to see what the difference is. This was 3 days later. Checklist. I had a tracking problem. I do know that. This down here was not tracking, even though I was getting leads. It was a new web page, brand new. So like we had to make sure that these are conversion ads, which for those of you that are my clients, you know we don't really do those because they're a pain in the ass. I just gotta tell you, conversions ads are a pain in the ass. We can do them 100%, but they are a pain in the ass when it comes to like tracking. Okay, making sure everything is talking from the landing pages back to Facebook to making it show up in the columns and you're choosing the right conversion event and the pixels firing and all these things. So we ran it here and we're like nothing is showing up and then we got it to work. But this was the one that ultimately worked. And it worked good. So if I look at this one, this one when we open this, the data, there's another number here I'm going to show you that I think is important as well. So my CTR all is over 2%. I'm sorry. So you can see this is over pretty good. And then my CTR link click-through rate, this is 164, 162, 114, 132. So what that tells me in the world of metrics is the CTR all is did my ad stop the scroll? That's what this is really about. Did this stop the scroll? This number. Okay. So if it's over 2% of the people that see it stopped, okay, I'm good. I'm good with that. So I stopped the scroll. Now, was my call to action in the ad strong enough to make them click? That is what this number is. So this is your CTA. Was your call to action strong enough to get them to click? Okay. So that tells me, okay, I'm in the right neighborhood. But again, like I told you earlier, what really matters is not these numbers. In this case, I'm looking at what was my cost per lead. Okay, these look pretty good. I'm going to go look at my cost per lead because that's really what matters. Did the people opt in? So what I like to do in my mind, I wish they would put this column in, and I could probably put it in as a custom column, but you look at your link clicks because this is the people that actually click the button. So in this situation, we'll say 116 people click the button. We're going to use this particular one. And of those 116 people, 17 people gave their email. Okay. Out of this one, 5 out of 41. Okay. So I'm ultimately looking at that number. I'm looking for I didn't have my phone in here. That's okay. So if we look at 116, uh, It's like what, 10%-ish? Oh, it's 15%. So in the world of KPIs, that's a little low. It does have room for improvement, but I'm trying to think if we fixed this tracking, we might have fixed this tracking. I'm trying to remember after it was running, like we kept messing with it. So that number might be higher. I don't remember, but my ideal number for conversion is 25% or greater. This one is at 15%. So if I did work on, this is the school one. That's right. This is the school one. So the school one was like, it was like I said, the platform doesn't necessarily want me to be sending people to school. So this was a 15% on average conversion. So just remember, I'm going to show you two different kinds of ads. So same ad, but different objectives. So that remember that's 15%. Now this one, let's go into the ads here and let's look at that conversion and see which one did it like better. 112. Mm, so interesting. I love this stuff. It's like crack. So 112 divided by 278 link clicks, that's a 40% conversion. The other one was 15%. Same ad, you guys. Same images, same words. It was a different ad. It's a different ad account, but it's a different objective. One was going to school, one was going to a website. But they both were collecting, both of them, the objective was to get on the other side of where I was sending them. That's how we count the conversion. So a 40% conversion rate to a 15% conversion rate. That's why these were under $10 and the other ones were higher. But I'm going to tell you, I've run thousands and thousands of dollars to school to build school. That $20 to $30 a lead is pretty typical. That's kind
Jen,
of where it is. So
can
it's
you
just
just,
interesting. But you've got to know your numbers. You got to know your numbers. And it was it's super interest. This to me is like, okay, that's why we had a test. You know, we got to test different things. And so here,
can you just say
you
the
know,
formula one more time, divided by,
I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't have the audio on.
oh, what, can you just say the formula one more time? What are you divided by link clicks? Like, what is the number that you're dividing by link clicks?
The
Results?
results, how many leads?
Okay, gotcha.
So you
Thank
could
you.
take any of these. These are all different ad sets. I just did it on the overall ad, but like I could look at this ad set and I'm looking, even if I'm doing the math, like for example, this one was $9.47. So if I got 21 leads and 41 link clicks, what did I say? 41, 21, that's what I thought it was. So I got 21 leads divided by 41 link clicks. This is at 50% opt-in. That's a damn good number. That's where most of you are in your numbers, 40, 50%. Conversion ads are lower typically, and this is a conversion ad. So I was testing a new audience on a new project I'm working on, and it's very viable. I'll just say that. So I'm like, okay, I could get these leads for like $8. So and I got 112 leads. It's really good. Now I gotta finish recording the presentation that goes for these people. So we want to look at that conversion number. And if it's not good, that's the real question. If that number is lower, like this one is at 15%, I could screw with it and try to work on the landing page and the ad and this and that. But honestly, I'm like, I've got an ad on the other side over there that's kicking butt. So I think I'm gonna just turn this one off. And that's how I looked at it. I don't remember how much I ran this one. I don't remember what my total was. I spent about $1,000 on these. And I got a lot. I got leads and they weren't bad, but this one over here crushed. Like I spent $1,000 here and I got like 110 leads, 112 leads. So your ad type is going to be also a very big factor. Because remember, Facebook always wants to keep people on Facebook and they don't mind. And then if I did this as a lead ad, which I show a lot of you, that's like the first ads that we do, these I bet you would be even half this cost if I had kept the lead on Facebook through a lead ad. Okay, this is a conversion ad. So they're going to a website, entering in their information versus using a lead ad where they're opting in the ad. So this is like this. I was so pleased with these numbers, I couldn't even tell you. Like to get conversion ad opt-ins for $7 and $8, I was like, frick yeah. Like I was so excited. So if you have a lot of link clicks and you're not getting the leads or the sale, it's usually because the expectation wasn't met from the link click to wherever you sent them. So if you're using a lead ad, the lead form, there's a mismatch. So they clicked on the ad thinking they want something, but then when they open the lead form, it let them down. So that's a room looking for that continuity. And same with this. If I had, this is what, 40%, 50% opt-in on some of these ads, they are getting exactly what they wanted, you know, on the other ad that's at 15%, obviously this could use some improvement, but the hardest part is with Skool is that I only have so much control over what this is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't really influence this page when they come here to join it. I can change the copy, I can change the video, but I can't really change the design. So I'm kind of screwed. So that's that. But I found that, I'm pulling leads in through here from a different way and it's working. I think the lead quality is better when I do it that way. So I'm going to do it that way. So going back to this, you know, your you've got to always look at these numbers, and just because that number is good, the number, the click-through rates, your CTR, all your CTR link click-through, just because they're great doesn't necessarily mean that A, they're going to opt in, or B, they're going to buy. So a lot of people like live and die by these numbers, and I'm like, well, they're just the front part of like the diagnostics in the ad. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor's office and they're like, what's your pulse? What's your temperature? Are you alive? Are you warm? That's kind of what these CTRs are. But really, it's just giving us data here is it stopping the scroll? Is it grabbing attention? Do you have curiosity clickers? Curiosity clickers are people that are, make sure I delete that. Curiosity clickers, if we have super high CTR all and really low link click through and we don't get the opt-ins, we got just a bunch of curious people. So, these are good numbers to look at, but ultimately we want to care, like in this situation here, I'm looking at what's my cost per lead ultimately. If I'm getting a good cost per lead and my CPMs are high, I don't care. I still get a good cost per lead. But the ultimate question is, especially if you're new running ads, the only thing you may have to go on is your cost per lead because you have not pulled enough people in yet to phone calls or appointments or whatever. So your real money is over here. What does it cost you to acquire that client? But we could start here earlier in this process because we can say, okay, what if it costs me $50 to acquire a client, But if I come over here and say, well, if I keep working on this ad and I can drop these numbers a little bit, maybe I can get this down to $45. And that, but it's not the ultimate ending, right? It's kind of in the middle as the cost per lead, because then you still have factors like, can I close? Will they show up, like to whatever appointment I had them make? Is my communication with them good? And I find that some of the biggest issues happen over there with those conversations. That's where the biggest issues are happening. So um as you get better and more dialed in to closing this number over to the close, and like I said, this could be within 48 hours, you could get that close. But as you get better and more, as you are, maybe if you're brand new, this might be 2 weeks, with follow-ups back and forth and getting people to a call and all this other stuff. So, we have a lot of factors after the lead comes in. But today's really about the ads. So this is not always the be all end all. So the other thing I want to talk about is the frequency fatigue, which is another thing. Let me look in the chat here. I'm just looking at the chat, making sure there's nothing I need to um, comment on. Um, I'm putting the rebroadcasts. I send them out through email and through text on this, and they're also in the YouTube channel. They need to go back into here too, but I just haven't had time. But they're all on my YouTube channel, which I could give you the YouTube link right here. So these are all the ones that are here. I'll drop this in the chat for you. I need somebody, one of my staff, to pull it into the classroom here. Okay, so let's talk about frequency. Frequency is how many times this ad has been shown to people. This is a loaded question here because I like I don't live and die by frequency either. I like to keep the frequency under 2, which means people have seen the ad twice. But the problem is some ads, especially ads that are the objective is purchase, this number will go to 3 and 4 within days because Facebook automatically builds in 50% of the ads budget on a purchase ad. I don't know if any of you are doing purchase ads, but 50% of the budget goes to retargeting in a purchase ad when the objective is sales. So it's really weird. But if you're running your lead ads and you're running like a general opt-in ad, engagement ad, we want these numbers to be under 2. Typically what happens, obviously if your frequency gets high, reset the ad, refresh the creative. Really it's about resetting the ad, or you might turn it off. It just depends on what it is. There's time, basically it's time to refresh the ad. But if you're running a conversion ad that goes to if you're using this objective of sales, your frequency may go to like 4 in days. If it locks into a segment, it'll just keep showing it. So just know that, because it's kind of weird. Even though they think they're doing you a favor, if they lock into the wrong segment, they're just burning through your money. Ask me how I know. Um, so here we are, looking at this example of, if we have an ad, you know, this is going to be more like a story problem. Do you remember back in grammar school when you had a story problem? So we had back then, when you'd be like, here's the story, you got to figure out the math. So hey, say here you've got like a $97 course, right? And your CPM was 15, which I would love that number, by the way. And your CTR was 3.2%, which would be decent, and your frequency was 2 and everything looked good. You might think you're rocking, but the problem is you come over here and your conversion rate was only less than 1% to opt in or to sale, that would be terrible. So, what you need to do is go back and make sure that the ad and the promise were matching, you know, and then make sure that that's one thing that I see the biggest mistake that people make is they have an ad, but the either the opt-in page or the lead form or wherever they're sending to, that message doesn't say the same. So it's disconnection. So that going back and rewriting that is really critical. So, here's your little fast fixes that I've got for you today. Is if your CPM is too high, which I said, don't live and die by this unless that your lead cost is really high. You might let your ads go for 7 days, make sure it's a true number, look at your cost per lead. That's the ultimate thing. If your CTRs are low, the CTR all is indicative of the body copy and like the image and the call to action, the headline is the CTR link click through. If those are low, then rewrite those. And if your frequency is really high, then work on resetting your ad. It's that simple. Just reset your ad, refresh the ad. Okay, super simple. So this will help you feel more confident when you're doing your ads. Again, these are numbers. These are the basic numbers that I look at out of that whole column. Um, of all these columns, a lot of these I don't look at what they are. It doesn't. Oh, and always set your columns to performance and clicks. These are custom columns that I have set up on this particular ad, but when you're coming into your account in general, always drop your columns to performance and clicks. And then you'll see these. If it just comes in and it's on performance, you're not going to see these columns. Like, where are the columns? I don't know. Performance and clicks is what you want to be on. Okay. So go to performance and clicks. You'll see the numbers start playing. Again, write them down and let the brain learn on these numbers. And that will help you a lot. I will tell you that will help you a lot. So if you are running ads and you have not talked to us yet, and help you planning your ads and figuring out what the best way to go, make sure you set up a call with us. Some of you have already done that. I know you have. Some of you work with us already. But if you have not done your call, please do that. Will help you figure out like where are you at in the process, where you should fix things. What's the best next step. And I dropped that link in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, it's somewhere here below this video. If you're watching the replay, like I said, I've got all the replays over on YouTube. They are also in the Skool Community, but the last ones, I'm just trying to get all of them on YouTube. So I'm focusing on that. And then I got to have somebody come and bring them back into my school. But they're all on YouTube. It's just sometimes I just run out of time in the day. All right, everybody. Well, have a wonderful rest of your week. It's Wednesday already. And I will have this rebroadcast up probably by sometime today. And then you can watch it again. All right, everybody. Take care. Have a good one. Bye bye.